Well, so far I think the season has been going good. 2-1, not the ideal score, I think, for us, but realistically we're in a good spot. I think that SK was one of the two teams that we beat that were very, very tough, and I think of them as like a top team. I was surprised we 3-0'd them, honestly. I don't think we should have 3-0'd them. I think they should have won at the very least 2 games.
Game 1, I think we had a pretty quick game, if I recall correctly. We actually managed to take the win relatively early on. Besides being like pretty even for a while, as soon as we just 5-man grouped and took the fights, we just proved that we're the better team, which is a really big thing for us, right? Because everyone sees us as these individuals, and in the SK set in particular, throughout all the games we actually got behind in the start from individual pace. So you can say that when we grouped up as a team, we finally shined. So that was a really positive takeaway from those games, I guess, that we can actually take on a pretty senior team in a 5v5 fight from behind, and we can still definitely win the games. So we won that set 3-0. I remember game 2 in particular, we were pretty far behind. We had like a 5k, 6k goal deficit. But we just managed to like stay positive, group up, like take good fights and stuff, and we actually managed to win that game as well. So the whole SK set was just more of a team performance, which was a really huge thing for us, right? Because everyone was figuring, well, who's gonna carry today? It wasn't so much anyone was carrying, it was more so that the whole team just did good.
Well, SSG, I think, well, after we saw how they performed in the big set, we thought that they just weren't up to date with the meta. I think SSG were, well, the most disappointing team. They didn't really show any signs of life. They just kind of played, and well, 3-0ing them wasn't a surprise, honestly. Like, no disrespect towards SSG, but they gotta step it up if they want to be a top team.
We had heard that SSG has pretty much been scrimming for a while, but we haven't really, like, we were like thinking, when did they actually have time to scrim? Because Veneno was like streaming 12 hours a day, and we didn't hear anyone that like scrimmed and stuff, so we felt pretty confident going into that set. Obviously we know that it's a really senior team, right? Like Barra and Jeff has been together forever, and have been around the scene forever. Venenu's obviously a world's MVP, and then Aquarius probably even the best player in that team now. So it's a really strong team. But I think after beating SK 3-0 and mainly beating them in the team fights and like the farming game, we knew that we were probably just a better team, like when it came to team play, to SSG. So all we did in that game in particular was like, well, if we just draft like a really good start, not a really good start, but if we draft like a decent early game and just make sure we have the better late game, we're pretty sure we'll just win of like pure team play. And that's kind of how that set went down as well. Like we actually had some pretty close games, especially I think it was game 2 as well, where like Aquarius kind of popped on Achilles, but we actually managed to pull ahead. But we managed to come out ahead, so we beat SSG 3-0 as well, and obviously it felt super great once again, just because there wasn't one person in particular that like did poorly, or one person in particular that like super well. So it's more of a team effort, which is really what this team needs in general. And I think after that first week we all kind of realized what potential we have, because we still made a lot of mistakes and we felt like we could have played those games way better. But 6-0ing 2 such senior teams and 2 teams that have been showing up at the World Championships for like a while now felt super good, and was like a big win for us.
I think it was a matter of time that we'd lose though. Rival played really well, much better than they played against Big. I think Rival are actually the better team, but they threw against Big quite a lot. I think Rival have the best meta currently. We haven't seen every team, but out of the teams we've seen play, I think Rival are like have the best strategies, the best drafts, and just the best way to play the game at the moment. So losing to a team like that, I think, is only beneficial, because if we won, obviously we would feel better and our scores would be better, but I think for the future, losing against such a team is better, just to like learn more about the game and have better strategies for the future.
So going into the rival set, we actually changed up our strategy completely. We figured we'd surprise them, which worked out well in the first game against them. But rival is a team of minds, in my opinion. They might not have the best individual players, however, they just kind of proved they have some of the best individual players. But they have great minds on that team, and they obviously have a really good coach as well. So they're able to adapt to the strategies we played. Basically, we went from playing like a late game strategy where we just said, well, if we can just like survive 30 game, even if we're like a few thousand gold behind, like it doesn't really matter too much. We can still beat them late game. We completely changed our style. We're like, okay, we just need to snowball these games. Let's just run these guys over. It's going to be a free over. They're not going to expect us to completely change our play style and just run it down, kinda. And it worked well in game 1. I think in game 1 we won after like 23 minutes, so it was just a snowball. Like literally we just kept increasing our goal lead and everything was working well. We got the picks we wanted. Obviously didn't expect us to pick like that. So yeah, game 2 we had second pick, and right now SMITE, it was so at least on the last patch, that there were 2 really OP cards that you wanted to ban, and one of them was King Arthur and the other one is Freya. So you kind of have to ban both on second pick unless you want to go for a trade, which I don't really think is something you want to go for. So because of that, that kind of gave them 2 bans. And what Rival does so well is like if they get 2 free bans, they'll just look back at the last game and then they'll ban the 2 guards that did super well. So in this case it was Nasha that got us a lot of pressure, and it was Bellona. So they were like, okay, let's just ban Nasha and Bellona, right? Like that's kind of how it works. I'm actually not sure if they banned Nasha, but at least they banned 2 of our guards, right? But I played super bad. I think I went like 3 and 12, missed a few very crucial executes, so it really hurt. Not a game that I want to watch back, obviously. Obviously, like it sucked losing the set, especially to Rival, because we do see them as some of our bigger like rivals in the league, and we know we have to win this game, but we kind of took the positives out of it. We're like, okay, well, at least this doesn't feel like we just got run over and we're like, okay, how did we lose? We felt like we had a win condition in every single game, and it just happened that in 3 of those games we weren't on point, like we weren't where we needed to be. So it was really unfortunate that we managed to lose that set. But then again, it was a 3-2, that just means we have to beat them 3-1 or 3-0 in the other half of the season, and I definitely think we're like able to do that. I also think we learned a lot about ourselves as a team, how like we react when we lose and how we learn when we lose. And I'm pretty happy with how we handled the loss, I think. I thought it would have been way worse, but it actually wasn't, and I think everyone's just, their minds is just on, okay, like we just need to beat Dignitas in like a few weeks when we play them, obviously our next game. So it sucks to lose. I think we're all bigger losers than we are like good winners. Like we hate losing more than we like winning those kind of games, everyone on this team, and that's just the mindset we have as a team and as individual players. But we also know that sometimes losing is necessary to make sure that we can actually lift the hammer at the end of the year.
Rival had the most surprising performance, I think. Like on paper, you wouldn't think this team is like that good, but I think every player on that team stepped it up. I don't think there was like, the only one that you could argue underperformed was against Dig, I think Arkil. And Twig, like missing some crucial executes. But in our set, I think both of them kind of just like looked back on the set before that and were like, okay, we fucked up, we're gonna work on that, you know, we'll make sure that doesn't happen. And I think the one that stepped up the most is probably Fine OK from last season, where, I mean, he was a notable solo laner, but he never really got anything going, you know, he never won like any big LAN or was never just up there top 2, top 3 or whatever. And now I think like you could easily say this might even be the best solo, well, after me of course, the best solo laner in the world. So yeah, I mean, shoutouts to Rival, I guess, the roster for making such big progress in how well they play.